That's a more multifaceted question than you might realize. And I'll tell you about that as I go through this. Photography is magic. Photography is creating images, creating moments, or capturing moments, not creating moments, but capturing moments in time. And when you push that button, there is now an image that didn't exist 5 seconds ago. And to me, that's just an incredibly powerful tool, powerful way of documenting our world, a way of creating art forms in a different way too. For me, it began on a trip to Canada. I was maybe 8 years old, and we stopped by Niagara Falls, and my dad had a pocket camera. I don't know if it was a 110 camera back then yet, but it was a pocket-sized Instamatic camera. And I kept saying, I want to take a picture, I want to take a picture, I want to take a picture. And he finally said, here's a damn camera. And I was 8 years old, and I've had a camera in my hands ever since. When I got into the darkroom, when I got into actual darkroom work, and for those of you in the digital world only, go back and take some analog classes. Go back and get in the darkroom, a wet darkroom, with chemicals and stinks and smells and wondrous things in those dark rooms. And now with digital, it's become a different phenomenon. It's become a very different. It's still very exciting, and what we can do in Photoshop, in some ways, blows what I did in the darkroom away. So there's a very innate creative sense that I can tap into photography. Earlier, you had asked questions about my high school experiences, and girls in particular. And I mentioned that there were some issues. I also mentioned that I was on sports teams as mascot and so forth. But photography was me. I was pushing the button. I was creating images. So it wasn't a coach saying, yes, you can come on the sidelines, come on buses, and be on a team. Photography was me. It was my images, my creations. It was my work that people were looking at and saying, this is really good or not. So it leveled the playing field in many ways. So there wasn't an issue of, oh, that picture was created by a guy with Cerebral Palsy. No, that picture was created by Steve. And I mentioned earlier that I photographed a bunch of shooters. So it was also a chance for me to, in some ironic sense, it was a way for me to learn how to interact and talk with girls. Because I'm behind the camera, and it was a different mindset. It wasn't a social situation, it was a job situation. There wasn't any asking them out for a date. It wasn't that stuff that would create all that anxiety that all teenage boys go through. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it was a bit magnified for me for different reasons. So the photography gave me a creative outlet. I sure couldn't draw, and my art was horrible. My non-photography art was horrible. But it gave me an artistic outlet. It gave me a way to compete with my peers evenly, and it was also a chance for me to figure out how to relate with both guys and girls.